Hello, Ram fans, and welcome to the inaugural edition of Meet the Rams Above the Rim. It's going to be a bi-weekly show we're going to do here for you for the men's basketball team to hopefully get to know the coaches and the players a little bit better. Riding shotgun with me over here on my right every week is going to be head coach of men's basketball, Brennen Shingleton. Brennen, how you doing today?
Great.
Good. I just want to start off with you here, and why don't you introduce yourself to some of the people out there that might not know who you are?
Obviously, Brennen Shingleton. I went to high school here in Fort Worth, played college ball, but down in Louisiana, came back, and I think, if my math is right, I'm entering my 23rd year here at Texas Wesleyan.
Okay.
So, yeah, I guess you can find the other information online.
Okay. And then we're going to take this show and we're going to build basically on everything is what my idea is to do here. And I think anything you build, you have to have a foundation before you can build something on top of that. Why don't you tell us what you think the core values are for your men's basketball team?
Well, they've changed throughout the years, to be candid with you. We've always wanted guys that wanted to be here, that utilize Texas Wesleyan for its strengths, but also the educational piece, the atmosphere in which small college basketball provides us, which is kind of a more hands-on approach. Once our guys get here, we want them to stay. And more importantly, we want to be able to impact their lives. So when we have those core values, it's really just based upon relationships and value and the educational piece. And then more importantly, we want guys that want to win.
Then so how would you say, tying this into your coaching philosophy, how do your core values go with your coaching philosophy?
My personal core values, it tends to just kind of be straightforward. My idea is show up to work every day, have a plan. I hate wasted opportunities, so, I want our guys to really take advantage of that every day and the things that are provided us here. And so obviously, with integrity and work ethic and accountability and all those different cliche words, they come to real life here. But it's an evolving process because, like any young coach that gets into the scene, they want to win right away. And it takes time. It's hard to win. And so when you try to establish your core values, sometimes they change until you get a comfortable base of who you really are as a head coach. And then at that point, you really try to elevate every aspect of your program through those values in which you're comfortable coaching.
And growing up here in Fort Worth, like you said you did, I know who your family is just for the simple fact of being a long-time Fort Worth resident. It's a totally different path to go into coaching than what your family was. What made you get into coaching?
Well, my dad was in the military for 30 years, and then my mother was a homemaker. It still is. And then my dad was in local politics. And I played college basketball. I was in the restaurant business right out of college. And then when I left there, sold my share of it and got here, it's always kind of gravitated towards back in my term of, service of some sort. I just enjoy being around people. I enjoy people counting on me to get better. I embrace that challenge. I don't know that I do a great job at it every single day, but that's how I got here, is I just enjoy being around people. I love the game. I love the college atmosphere into which we can compete and win championships. I couldn't do this job if we couldn't win. If we were just going to participate, roll the balls out there, and hope to provide a college season, then I just couldn't do it. So really just excelling in the opportunity to be around people that want to win and excel in life and challenge themselves in different avenues that they might not be able to reach themselves.
Now, Coach, before we get into bringing one of your players in here, and of course we're going to bring an assistant coach in here to talk about a special event that's going on October 30th at TCU. But this Rams team you have this year, it does have some few core players coming back from last season, but it is a much different looking team than you've had in the past.
It is.
You just want to talk about this team and how it's different from your other teams you've coached?
Well, let me tell you something. COVID finally caught up with us. We graduated 7 guys last year. So it wasn't like they just left. Their time was up. And you want to keep score of wins and losses, but when you graduate 7 kids, that's huge. And so it was just time. It was time for a change. It was time for a little bit of a revamp in our roster. It was time for maybe some guys that come in here that aren't familiar with our program that can inject some life into some competitiveness, some toughness. So it was time. And so the new roster is really about guys that have bought into the coaching staff and myself's vision of doing things a little bit differently. The game is getting harder and harder to win. Our league is arguably the toughest one in the country. So we knew we had to have players that weren't necessarily comfortable, but we knew we need to have guys that were going to come in here and really had something to prove. And so the two guys that we got coming back, that essentially played some minutes, they understand that message. They understand what's expected of them going forward. But the new guys are really just chasing kind of what this program provides them. That's an opportunity to win. And not win a couple of games. Like, our expectation is win a conference championship, national championship. And so they came here for that reason. So it's a great blend. It's actually kind of good to have a bunch of new guys in because they don't have any kind of past negative history here. They don't have any letdowns here. And they also don't know what to expect. So we can pretty much tell them how hard it's going to be, and they're going to be like, oh, okay, we're going to have to work that hard to do it. And so it's really been a good change. And I'm excited about that because, like anything else, sometimes a real hard reset is good for you and your program and coaching staff and potentially your team.
Now, I know that you talked about graduating 7. That's a big turnover here. I know also, too, you've talked about how you are not going to announce your captains yet. But if you had to speak to your team out there in Ram Nation, what would you say you expect out of your captains, and what does it take to be a captain for Brennen Shingleton's team?
Well, the first thing you got to be is you got to have thick skin. As a leader in our program, you got to have thick skin. You have to know that we're going to treat you as a man that has ownership of this program. Because there's so many guys that have come before us that have allowed us to get to this point now. And so we're representing them. I'm representing them. I'm representing former coaches. I'm representing people that come in and out of our program every day. And so the guys that lead our program have to buy into that philosophy of we're going to do more for others than we're expected to get back. And so we haven't really established the word captain because we haven't played any games yet. I mean, we haven't had any true adversity. And so we're really looking at, what kind of chemistry we have before we have to have chemistry, if that makes sense. Right. Do we have good chemistry now? Well, okay, it's great, but we haven't been forced to have chemistry yet. And so, to me, that's really what we're looking for. And it's coming. It's evolving. Kris and Kale have been setting great examples of work ethic and how to handle themselves and do certain things. But, sometimes leaders don't want to, we could appoint a captain or a leader and they don't want to be that. And I'm not saying those guys don't, but I am saying that we have great personalities in our program, great leadership qualities in our program. Hopefully they're all respectful of each other and listening and trying to figure this out because we really do have some great pieces. So I don't have, my coaches might say something different. I don't have guys that I would, put a C on their chest or put in, the deal at half court before the game. That's nothing but just a communication to referees anyway. I don't want to talk to the referees, so the players need to. And so in that regard, that's an old school tradition. The leaders in our locker rooms are the ones that are keeping things together and doing things when no one's watching and stepping up and doing tasks that nobody wants to do or be in line and making sure guys are taking care of themselves on and off the court. So, again, we haven't, as much as it's October and we're heading into our season, we really haven't done anything yet, We're embarking on a huge, huge month of November. And so we're going to find out fast who leads us.
Speaking of leadership for the Rams, coming up in the next segment, we're going to sit down and talk about Christian Lafayette, who's returning from an injury from last year.
Serving Fort Worth and surrounding areas for over 40-plus years, welcome to Moritz Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, located at 9101 Camp Bowie West Boulevard, Suite 2 in Fort Worth, Texas. Our commitment to our customers continues well beyond the date of purchase. Pre-order or browse vehicles 24/7 by visiting us online or schedule service 6 days a week at any one of our locations. Browse our quality lineup of pre-owned vehicles in person or online at moritz-chrysler.com.
Ram fans, welcome back to Meet the Rams Above the Rim. On this segment, we're going to bring in the big man here for the men's basketball team, Christian Lafayette. Christian, why don't you just introduce yourself to anybody that might not know you?
Christian Lafayette from Detroit, Michigan. This is my third year here at Wesleyan. I started at Louisiana Lafayette for 2 years, and then I transferred over to Colorado State Pueblo, and then I ended up over here in Wesleyan. So.
Kris, I know last year was a very challenging year for you, I guess if you could say. Do you just want to talk about some of those challenges you had to face last year and overcome to get to where you're at now?
Yeah, so for everyone who obviously doesn't know, I went through a pretty serious injury last year, right before the season started. I tore a whole bunch of ligaments in my knee, and it was a tough time for me. I had, a lot of free time to just think about things, and it gave me an opportunity to, look at the game a different way, like see the game a different way. It gave me a chance to grow mentally, because going through something like that, it's not easy, obviously, mentally and physically. So,
So, Kris, I know going through rehab and doing stuff, you have goals that you have to hit or goals that you want to try to hit in your comeback. I know whenever we first started talking last year and you were coming back, you were talking about you needed to bring your jump shot back and everything.
Yeah.
What are your goals for this season for the Rams basketball team?
well, obviously, we want to win the conference. We want to, win a national championship, get to that tournament. Personally, personal goals, I want to, try to win Player of the Year, try to win first team, and just be the best, player that I can be for the team, do what I need to do, for us to win.
And Coach, I want to bring you in here. Not having Kris last year on the team, I know was a big blow to you. Why don't you just talk about what Kris brings to this team for you?
At Kris's best, and obviously we're going to get there. He's an elite rebounder. Got great IQ, understands the game, knows how to get his teammates better. He plays it, he runs and can move like a guard. But obviously being 6'10" and the ability he has, he can finish at the rim. All those things are within his capabilities. We anticipate him being better than that this year. And it's going to take a little time. It's been out, But I think his teammates around him will provide him the confidence to get back out there and play a little bit better this year. But we know what he's capable of. But like any person that's come off an injury, sometimes it's just getting out there and trusting it. And so he will. But we're talking about an elite rebounder, an elite defender, somebody that can really control the paint. And then more importantly, he's worked really hard on his jump shot so he can extend the floor a little bit. Really difficult matchup in our league. And everybody knows that. I mean, there's no secret. Kris can't hide. And so part of the challenge he's going to have is leveling up and raising his level to that consistently. And so that's what we expect of him. He knows it. It's no secret. We know that we put him in a position to answer the bell, as we should say, this year. And he will do that. It might not happen the first week. It might not happen next week. It might not happen the first month. But he understands how supportive we are of him, and we'll get him there.
Kris, and I'm going to go back to you here. And Coach Shingleton talked about in the first segment graduating 7 players last season. This is a kind of new team, but you were around that team last season when you were doing your rehab. What is the difference between last year's team and this year's team?
I think the big thing is everybody's just bought in. Everybody just wants to win. There's not a lot of egos on the team. There's not a lot of, me ball. I think everyone knows what we want to accomplish. And, I think Coach brought in, the perfect group of guys that kind of mesh well together that, when things get hard can kind of come together and, complete the goal.
Okay, Kris, and then also, too, this is, if people don't understand or if people don't know, basically Texas Wesleyan, it's kind of an athletics-driven campus, you could say, because a lot of the undergrad students and some of the graduate students, they are student athletes. And you've talked about how you've been to other schools and seen their philosophy and everything. What would you say is different here for student athletes than you've seen in other institutions?
Well, obviously, it's a small school, so It's very, as he said, hands-on. It's very personal, and that was one of my big things when I was transferring. I wanted a place that I could come and feel very welcome, feel like a family type place, and I think this is the perfect place for that. It brings people together, and when you leave here, you're a better person, better man.
Now, also piggybacking off that, talking about you being at different institutions, what kind of coach would you say Coach Shingleton is, and how would you describe him if you had to describe him as a cartoon character? And I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot for this one, but I thought it would be a good question to ask.
Great.
Oh, dude.
This is what we love.
Oh, man, I'm not sure. He's not an easy coach, obviously. He's a great coach, but, you got to have thick skin. You got to be able to take criticism. You got to be able to, keep it moving. In terms of cartoon character, I don't even know.
What do you think?
What do you
think, Brennen? What would you say?
Well, listen, I mean, there's a lot of good-looking cartoon characters. If I had to take my pick, I've been called a little bit of everything from Shrek to Mr. Incredible to, my kids call me everything under the sun. You know what the good thing about it is when they're calling me names?
What's that?
They're thinking about me. And so, I look at it like, you can only imagine the cartoon characters I could come up with the guy left of me. So it's okay. It's okay. It's if you can't take a little bit, you sure can't give it. So I'm all right with that.
Now, I'm going to kind of say something about the TCU game here, but we're really going to get into it a little bit heavier in the next segment. But I just want to talk to you, Kris. What does this game, being able to play a D1 school and go into their arena and take them on, mean to this team and to you?
It's big time, especially, for dudes who've never experienced that or been able to play in that type of environment. It's definitely tests where you're at, mentally, physically, and as a team, it tests like where we're at. So I think it'll be a great, test and get in there and compete, school just down the street, good school. So I'm excited for sure.
And now the last question I want to pose to you, of course, before we bring on assistant coach Brian Wanamaker. Brian's going through an issue now. You had a pretty serious issue that you had. Have you and Brian really ever had any talks about the two of y'all, what y'all had going on, and how you could better help each other with everything?
No, my issue is minimal compared to what he's going through. That's a life-changing issue, and he knows that we all have his support, or he has our support, and we've never really. It's a good question. We've never really sat down and talked about it, too in depth, but it's definitely something to think about for sure.
And the last question I'm going to ask you, Kris. Now, you're a senior this year, correct?
Yep.
What are your plans when you're done here with Texas Wesleyan University?
Hopefully I can, have a good season. The team can have a good season, and I, have an opportunity to go play overseas or, take my career further. But, just take it day by day. So,
All right, thanks, Kris. We look forward to seeing what you're going to do this season in your comeback.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Welcome back to the final segment. In this segment, we've got assistant men's basketball coach Brian Wanamaker with us. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing well. Yeah. Brian, if there's somebody out there that doesn't know who you are, why don't you just kind of do a general introduction about yourself?
I'm Brian Wanamaker, as James said, born and raised in Philadelphia. I spent my final 2 years of college at Texas Wesleyan from 2009 to 2011. I was a student athlete here, won 2 conference championships, went on to play basketball in Europe afterwards for 6-7 years. And in 2019, I came back here as an assistant coach, and I'm currently going into my 5th season.
Well, you talked about coming back here and being a player here, and you're saying that you won 2 championships here, but I think you missed the most important part of it, being an All-American here for the Rams basketball team. What does it take to be a great player for the Rams basketball team?
I don't mean to interject, but a first-team All-American.
Okay,
meaning
first team All-American. I'm sorry,
Top
excuse
five.
me.
Conference Player of the Year.
Conference Player of the Year, too. You don't have to humbly say that.
Well, if he would have mentioned all that,
Yeah,
you know, he's trying
not
to be
to
too
mention
humble.
two of his
here.
Well,
rings
we
are
said
sitting here in
speak in
front of the
general.
eight.
I was speaking
Yeah.
in general. In general introduction, you know, was a student athlete at Texas Wesleyan University, you know. So
Well, I know that and you just brought this up, so I'm going to go ahead and bring this up here. We've got the rings that are sitting out here, Brennan, that are your rings out here on the table.
They're
as a
ours.
prop.
They're ours.
And there's some that he was responsible for. Why don't y'all? Or I'll pose this question to both y'all real quick. What do these rings mean to you?
I think rings. I mean, obviously, right away you just think of success, but more importantly, I think it is just a group of guys that got together and figured out how to take advantage of an opportunity they got. Put your egos to the side. You sacrifice, and you learn how to sacrifice for a team. And a lot of those guys, especially on my team, I know we had a very, very talented group. We aren't all able to be that star player or that star guy, but we all have the capability of doing so. But we all took a step back to make it work in order to accomplish something like that. So,
Coach, would you like to add on that?
Well, you know, he said it perfectly. The rings are just a byproduct of a lot of hard work. And so, you know, it's something that they can, I mean, you could theoretically replace a ring. You can't replace the experience. And so while we have these rings out here, it's a sales pitch. It's an identifier. We talk about it all the time when we're recruiting kids. It's almost like a path of, okay, we can show you how to get there. The ring shows you that we can show you how to get there. And it's a sense of pride. I mean, they don't make 50 of them. You know, you had to do something to get it. And those are important things. You know, it's a symbolism of winning.
Now, I guess the next question to pose to you about these rings while we're talking about them, does one ring for you and one ring for you mean more than another ring, or is it kind of they're all equal?
I always feel like the first one means the most. Just because you learn how to get there, you learn how to accomplish that, and you see the hard work and the sacrifices and everything it takes to get it. And obviously, you look at sports, going back to back in anything is also difficult, but you understand what it takes, and you did it already. You know the pathway to getting there, but before, on that first one, you really don't know if your hard work, really don't know if those sacrifices are going to pay off. And once it do, I think that feeling is probably the best feeling in the world.
Coach, would you second that motion there to say the first one means the most, or what would you say?
It's hard to differentiate any of them. I mean, you winning a championship is hard. Winning a game is hard, and it's only getting harder. I think when I take away one more than the other, it doesn't really balance in my head because each team had something special about them. So, I mean, obviously national championship rings are different than conference championship rings, but in essence, it's just maybe some things went our way. That's 2 national championships that didn't go our way. Like Brian's team, I tell our players all the time, arguably probably the best team we've ever had on this campus. They were 30-3. I mean, they were dominating people. And the timing didn't add up at the end. And they were a couple of possessions shorter. They probably would have won at the national championship. And I don't say that lightly. Like there's teams where you say, oh, yeah, you were talented enough. No, we had shown it all year long that they were talented enough to win a national championship. It just didn't play out. And so the rings are unique and all that stuff, but I couldn't. I mean, obviously, having a national championship as a head coach is a unique thing. Having one as an assistant coach is a unique thing. But stacking them up over a years are super unique because every one has a different meaning.
And now, Brian, I want to get into your story here a little bit this past year, just for the simple fact that you've gone through quite a big battle here dealing with multiple myeloma. If people don't know what that is, it is essentially a blood cancer, I guess would be the best way to describe it. You just want to talk a little bit about your journey, about how you found out about this and what your journey was with this disease?
So I found out, I remember it was a Friday going into practice, and leading up to that, probably kind of the whole summer, I was having lower back pain a lot, and I just thought it came from me working out every day. And I remember being an athlete, and I was having a lot of back problems, and they used to tell me I had to tighten my core. So I just thought it was related to that. But as time went on, it just kept getting worse and worse. And, I was getting out the parking lot going into the gym on a Friday, and Coach Shingleton was getting out his car also. And I said, Coach, I really need to go to the doctor right now. I can't come in. My back is hurting really bad. So that was probably the first time I really realized something was wrong, worse than just a back pain. And it probably took a couple of weeks before I got diagnosed. I was doing a lot of scans and tests and things like that. And I think it was probably 2 Fridays maybe after that I found out.
Okay. And one of the things that helped you to overcome this was you have a twin brother who was able to give you a donation to help you to kind of fight the cancer, to cure it, or is that not the right way to put it?
No, that didn't happen.
Okay.
He wasn't a match.
He wasn't a match.
He wasn't.
Okay. Well, I do know that we're playing TCU on the 30th, and I do know there is a connection between your brother and
Yes.
Coach Jamie Dixon. That is at TCU. You want to talk a little bit about that connection you have?
Yeah, so I knew Jamie Dixon since I was in high school. I knew one of his assistants very well. He recruited my brother to go to Pittsburgh. So my brother played for him for 4 years, 2008 to 2011, I believe it was. So I used to spend my summers in Pittsburgh with the basketball team, worked out with those guys all summer long, which helped me get better, to be a better player for Texas Wesleyan. But yeah, I knew Jamie Dixon since then, since probably early 2007, 2006.
Okay. One of these things we're doing with the TCU game on the 30th is we're teaming with the American Cancer Society and TCU. It's basically to bring awareness to cancer, but we also want to look at Brian as what he's gone through and try to honor him for what he's done here. When you found out about what was going to go on with this, what was your initial kind of reaction to it? Were you kind of shocked, or what did you feel?
Honestly, initially, I was just like, can we please stop talking about me? Like, I'm kind of over it, not in a negative way, but I want to just play basketball, coach the guys, and things like that. But then as I sat and thought about it, I just thought about how I can just continue to be a great example for other people out there who's dealing with adversity, and some dealing with much more adversity than I am dealing with, and it's just gonna be a great example for our players, to keep striving and keep going when they're dealing with things that they may seem that might not be seen as tough, and I'll kind of describe situations as one person's adversity isn't much worse than another's, but we understand things differently than kind of Kris kind of hit it on the head, from someone dealing with health, someone dealing with injury, someone maybe dealing with financial things. It is a little different, but we all got our struggles, and I just think that is a great opportunity to bring awareness to that. So,
Coach Shingleton, I want to bring you in here too, because you were very instrumental in kind of getting this game together and making things happen. You just want to talk about the process of how that had to happen?
Well, the conversation we brought up prior, when we found out about Brian's diagnosis, obviously it hit really hard to me. And this was never any kind of correlation. I think there were talks to have this game prior to Brian's diagnosis. And the idea behind now of bringing it together is Coach Dixon's using his platform to allow us to share Brian's story. And not only that, but just like Brian said, use it as a tool to kind of spread the word and give kids an insight on Brian and his toughness. But the game was simple to come together. It was Coach Dixon agreeing to play us. I could have begged all day long, and he didn't say yes, and we're not playing. But the tie in which his family has with the Dixons, and then our relationship with TCU and my relationship with Coach Dixon, so it just worked out well. And so now, not only are we bringing what we think is two good basketball teams together in the city of Fort Worth, and don't get me wrong, I know what Brian would love to do is just play the game. But we're also going to be able to celebrate some things that he needs to be celebrated for, and also bring some awareness, because it's important. And so the game itself was easy to get together. I mean, the dates were easy. I mean, we're, 3 miles away? And I don't know if you told people this, this massive audience that we're about to have.
Right.
But it's general free admission.
Yes,
So
I was going to talk about that.
You can bring anybody you want. Whichever girlfriend you choose to bring that week, you can bring. All right, so it's general admission. And not only are we celebrating, the cancer awareness and the importance of that, but we're celebrating basketball, and I think that honors him the best that we can honor him, because I know he values these opportunities. He's looking forward to seeing our guys perform, and that's what he cares about. And so it's just been a great experience. And I think that the timing was correct, and the planets kind of aligned as far as allowing us to do it. And in my opinion, and Brian could speak for this too, I think we've got the right team to go do it. Yep. James, we were supposed to play them last year. And talk about the wind blowing in the right direction. We didn't. And so this year we are. And he's somewhat healthy. He has his days. We all do. But he's going to be energized. He's going to coach. And you're going to see how good a coach he is. And so that being said, when I get ejected in the second half, and he's got to take the reins for the game, and he gets to step up on that stage, and that's what it's all about. I mean, it's just going to be a great exhibition, and that's really what it's all about. So we're bringing awareness to cancer. We're bringing awareness to two good teams. We're going to put basketball, Texas Wesleyan basketball, in a little bit of a spotlight in the city. Not that most people don't know that we have a good team, but they might not know the caliber of players and competitiveness and the coaching styles and the amount of seriousness and professionalism that we take in our program every day. I mean, we just don't roll the balls out there and hoop. And so all this stuff comes together and it's going to be turned out to be a great experience for everybody.
So what I took from that answer you just gave me here, we're going to predict an ejection from you from the game?
Well, what's today?
Today is Tuesday, sir.
Today, yes. Tomorrow, no. No, listen, my kids are going to be there. Probably some fans will be there. I'm assuming, I've been told we've got administrators going to be there. We've got city officials going to be there. We've got the board of trustees. So it's probably not best that I set an example that way. I was using that as a joke.
Oh,
James.
I know. I got to give you a hard time coming back to
At some point, it's going to be sooner than later that Brian's going to have his program. And when I work at Discount Tire in a couple of years and he's running the show, you can come back and look and say it started all, then. So.
Well, Brian, next question I want to pose to you here is, after everything you've been through here, with the cancer, what is the best thing you learned that's made you a better coach through what you've had to go through?
The best thing that I learned that made me a better coach, just no matter what you're going through, you can always show up for other people. That you don't have to make it about you, even if you're going through something really, I guess, traumatic. You can always still sacrifice and put to the side and still be there and show up for others. So I hope I can set that example for our players too.
All right, with that, I'm going to close the show. I want to thank Brennen Shingleton, Coach Brian Wanamaker, Kris Lafayette coming on to talk to us today. I also want to remind everybody that October 30th at 7 p.m. at Schollmaier Arena, the men's basketball team for Texas Wesleyan will be taking on Jamie Dixon in the men's basketball game at TCU. It is going to be free admission. If you can't make it to the game is also going to be broadcast on ESPN Plus and the Antler Sports Radio Network. Until 2 weeks from now, we'll see you back here with Above the Rim.